Last night on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire turned into television's most shocking confrontation when Denzel Washington walked off set after Jimmy Kimmel crossed every line imaginable. The two-time Oscar winner sat in the hot seat ready to win money for charity. But what started as a quiz show became a battlefield that left audiences stunned and Kimmel's reputation in ruins. The ABC studios buzzed with typical pre-show energy. Audience members filed into their seats expecting nothing more than celebrity trivia and charitable giving. Denzel Washington had arrived to play for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the organization that shaped his youth and remained close to his heart for over 40 years. Behind the scenes, everything seemed routine. Makeup artists made final touches. Producers ran through cue cards. Washington's publicist assured him this would be straightforward. Just answer questions, talk about the charity, maybe tell a story about training day, she said with practiced confidence. Jimmy Kimmel sat in his host chair, shuffling question cards with his trademark casual style. The studio lights warmed up. The audience practiced their applause. Everything felt exactly like the hundreds of celebrity editions that came before. When the cameras rolled, Kimmel emerged to thunderous applause, his grin wide as he launched into his opening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Tonight we have Hollywood royalty in our hot seat. Please welcome two-time Academy Award winner, Denzel Washington. Washington walked out with his characteristic presence, that unmistakable combination of strength and grace that made him one of cinema's most commanding figures. He waved to the crowd, shook Kimmel's hand firmly, and settled into the contestant chair. Denzel, wonderful to have you here. Kimmel began warmly. You're playing for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Tell us why this charity means so much to you. Washington's face softened as he spoke. Jimmy, when I was young, the Boys and Girls Club saved my life. Kept me off the streets, taught me discipline, gave me purpose. I've been supporting them for decades because I know what they do for kids who need direction. That's beautiful, Kimmel said, though something in his tone felt off. Discipline and purpose. Very traditional values. Some might say conservative values. The slight edge in the comment made Washington pause. I wouldn't call keeping kids safe and giving them opportunities political, Jimmy. I'd call it human. Of course, Kimmel said quickly, but his smile had changed. Let's start the game. For $1,000, which planet is known as the Red Planet? Mars, Washington answered simply. Correct. The money tree lit up. Mars, named after the god of war, Kimmel noted. You've played a lot of warriors, haven't you, Denzel? A lot of violent characters. Man on Fire, Training Day, The Equalizer. Do you ever worry about the message that sends? Washington's jaw tightened slightly. I play complex characters, Jimmy. Characters with depth. If you watch those films, you'd know they're about more than violence. Right? They're about justice, Kimmel said with air quotes. Vigilante justice. Taking the law into your own hands. Very American. Very traditional. The audience sensed something shifting. This wasn't the usual playful banter. Washington maintained his composure. Let's continue with the questions, Jimmy. For $2,000, Kimmel read. Which amendment to the Constitution guarantees freedom of speech? The First Amendment, Washington answered. Correct again. Freedom of speech. Something you've been pretty careful about exercising, haven't you? Kimmel leaned back. I mean, you're one of the few major stars who never talks politics. Never endorses candidates. Why is that, Denzel? I believe my job is to entertain, not to tell people how to vote, Washington said evenly. But don't you think someone with your platform has a responsibility to speak out? Kimmel pressed. Especially now, with everything happening in this country? I think my responsibility is to my craft and to helping organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs, Washington replied, his voice carrying an edge now. That's a very convenient position, Kimmel said. Stay neutral. Don't risk alienating anyone. Keep selling tickets to everyone. Washington's eyes flashed. Convenient? I've donated millions to charity. I've mentored young actors for decades. What's convenient about that? It's convenient because you never have to take a real stand, Kimmel shot back. You talk about discipline and values, but you won't say what those values actually are. The studio had gone quiet. The audience shifted uncomfortably. This was supposed to be a charity game show, not an interrogation. For $4,000, Kimmel continued, his tone harder now. What year did the Civil Rights Act pass? 1964, Washington answered, his voice controlled but tight. Right. 1964, you were 10 years old. Old enough to remember. Yet you never talk about it. You never discuss race, politics, social justice. Don't you think that's a bit of a betrayal to those who fought for your opportunities? Washington stood up slowly. The movement was controlled, deliberate, but everyone in the studio felt the shift in energy. Betrayal? His voice was low, dangerous. Did you just accuse me of betraying the civil rights movement? I'm just asking questions, Kimmel said, but his voice wavered slightly. No, you're making accusations, Washington said, stepping away from the hot seat. You're sitting there, safe behind your desk, questioning my integrity because I don't perform my beliefs for your entertainment. I'm trying to understand how someone can stay silent when the world is burning, Kimmel replied, attempting to regain control. Silent. Washington's voice rose for the first time. I've built community centers. I've put hundreds of kids through college. I've created opportunities for young black actors and filmmakers. That's not silence, Jimmy. That's action. But you won't speak out publicly, Kimmel persisted. You won't use your voice for change. My voice. Washington laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about voice? Let's talk about yours. Every night you sit behind that desk making jokes about serious issues, turning pain into punchlines. Is that using your voice for change? The audience gasped. Kimmel's face flushed red. At least I take a position. At least people know where I stand. Where you stand. Washington stepped closer to the desk. You stand wherever the ratings tell you to stand. You stand wherever the network tells you to stand. Don't lecture me about courage when you're reading jokes someone else wrote. Those jokes reach millions of people, Kimmel protested, his composure cracking. And my work reaches millions too, Washington replied. The difference is, I respect my audience enough not to tell them what to think. Or you're too afraid to risk your image, Kimmel snapped. The words hung in the air like poison. Washington went completely still. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried throughout the entire studio. Afraid? I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. I've been black in America for 70 years. I've faced things you can't imagine. Don't you ever call me afraid. Then why won't you speak up? Kimmel demanded, standing now too. Because I don't owe you or anyone else a performance of my beliefs, Washington said. My life is my statement. My work is my statement. The kids I've helped are my statement. That's not enough anymore, Kimmel said desperately. People need leaders. And you think leadership means tweeting? Washington asked. You think it means making political jokes on late-night TV? That's not leadership, Jimmy. That's entertainment dressed up as activism. The confrontation had reached a boiling point. Security moved closer, unsure if they should intervene. The audience was frozen, witnessing something unprecedented. At least I'm trying, Kimmel said weakly. No, you're performing, Washington corrected. There's a difference between trying and performing, just like there's a difference between talking and doing. He turned to the camera. To everyone watching, I apologize. You came to see a game show for charity. The Boys and Girls Clubs of America does incredible work. Please donate if you can. He turned back to Kimmel. As for you, I'm done here. You're walking away? Kimmel called out. Proving my point. Washington stopped at the edge of the stage. I'm not proving your point, Jimmy. I'm refusing to participate in your theater. There's a difference. This is about accountability, Kimmel shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. No, this is about your ego, Washington replied without turning around. This is about you needing everyone to validate your worldview. Well, I don't need your validation, and you don't deserve mine. He walked off, leaving Kimmel standing alone on the stage. The host's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The studio was dead silent except for the hum of the cameras. We'll be right back, Kimmel finally managed, but his voice was hollow. Backstage, Washington's publicist rushed up. Denzel, what happened? Check the Boys and Girls Club's donation page, Washington said calmly. She pulled out her phone. Her eyes widened. Donations are up 600% in the last 10 minutes. Then something good came from this, Washington said. Back in the studio, the audience filed out quietly. Many avoided looking at Kimmel, who remained on stage, the weight of what just happened crushing down on him. His producer approached carefully. Jimmy, we need to discuss damage control. There's no controlling this, Kimmel said quietly. I just attacked Denzel Washington on national television for being too dignified. Within minutes, social media exploded. Denzel Washington just destroyed Jimmy Kimmel with class. One tweet read, getting 50,000 retweets in an hour. Kimmel really thought he could break Denzel? LOL. Another posted, never watching Kimmel again. Team Denzel forever. Thousands commented. The hashtag Denzel was right began trending worldwide. Clips of Washington's calm demolition of Kimmel's arguments went viral. The phrase, "my life is my statement," became a rallying cry. Kimmel tried to address it on his show the next night. "I want to apologize to Denzel Washington," he began, but the audience was cold. Some booed. The magic was gone. Everyone had seen what happened when Kimmel's political grandstanding met actual dignity. His ratings plummeted immediately. Guests canceled appearances. Sponsors pulled out. The playful host who'd entertained millions was now seen as a bully who tried to tear down one of Hollywood's most respected figures. Washington never spoke publicly about the incident. He didn't need to. His silence was more powerful than any statement. He continued his work, his charity, his craft. Actions over words, just as he'd always done. The episode became known as the night Kimmel lost. Film schools studied it. Communications professors analyzed it. It became the perfect example of what happens when performative activism meets genuine principle. Years later, when asked about it, Washington would simply say, "Some people need to make noise. I prefer to make a difference." Kimmel never recovered fully. The incident haunted him. The night he tried to expose Denzel Washington, but instead exposed himself. The night he confused volume with value, performance with principle. The full episode never aired, but it didn't matter. Everyone had seen what they needed to see. Two men, two approaches to influence. One standing for something real, the other falling for his own act. In the end, the Boys and Girls Clubs received more donations in 1 week than they usually saw in a year. Washington had won without playing the game, and Kimmel had lost by rigging it. The hot seat remained empty for the rest of that night's taping. A perfect metaphor for what happens when you try to put integrity on trial. It simply walks away, leaving you with nothing but an empty chair and a silent studio.